They finally released that Miss Marvel trailer, and we're going to talk about that and more on today's episode of the Geek Watch Podcast.
This is the Geek Watch Podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 143 of the Geek Watch Podcast. This is Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geek Watch's own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hello, Brian.
Episode 143, otherwise known as the Fred Rogers episode.
Why?
Because Fred Rogers, every time he would weigh himself, he would weigh 143 pounds. And he felt that that was the universe giving him a message. I love you.
Aww.
Because I is one letter, love is 4 letters, and 3 letters for you. I saw that in a Fred Rogers documentary.
Wow.
So 143. But there's some things that have popped up that I definitely want to talk to you about today. But before we get to the trivial, let's talk about the major important thing that I've been waiting to talk to you about all week. I want to hear about this Batgirl cosplay you're working on.
Oh! Really? Like, what are we talking about? Oh, yes.
Now, I've seen you've been posting some stuff on Instagram, and so I've seen you've been piecing it together. How much do you still have to...
Just the cape.
Just
the cape is all that's left. I've got the tunic, and I got it back from my printer, Brooke. She is fantastic. She printed my tunic, and I've got the boots, I've got the leggings, I've got the fingerless gloves, I've got my... Well, I guess if I wanted to add some pouches to my utility belt, I'd have to look for those, but I think you have to have them specially made to make them yellow, because you can get black ones. But I've got the domino mask, so just going straight domino mask. I'm not going to make a cowl or anything right now, maybe later. Okay. But at this point, it's pretty much just the cape is all that I need to go.
Oh, yeah. I've been following that on Instagram.
Thank you.
So, yeah, you're definitely going to have to post some pictures when you get that done. So. We did happen to see the trailer for Miss Marvel.
Yes.
And one thing I will say about the trailer, I don't know how much you know about her from the comics, but her power set is different in the TV show than they are the comics.
Okay.
Because in the TV show, apparently she has these bracelets, these power bands. And in the comic, she was exposed to Terrigenesis, which is what gives the Inhumans their powers. And she was exposed to it. And that gave her the ability to change the size of anything in her body. So she called it being able to embiggen. So she could make her hands bigger or her entire, And this seems to be, in the TV show, it seems to be power-based. Now, those bracelets, they remind me from the comics of Quasar. Quasar had what he called the quantum bands. And they gave him the power to bend light and to make light constructs. Think Green Lantern. Except that there's no vulnerability to yellow and there's no limit because it would pull the energy from what in the comics they called the quantum zone. But I would figure you would refer to as the quantum realm.
Now, yeah.
And Quasar's powers put him in basically what in comics they would refer to as an omega level. In other words, one of the most powerful of the heroes.
Okay.
And so if they're giving her that set of powers... If they're making her as powerful as Quasar, she is going to be probably one of the most powerful heroes in all the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Wow, okay.
And certainly someone who's going to be able to run with Carol Danvers and Monica Rambeau. She will most easily be able to hold her own.
Well, I know that at one point of time, Carol Danvers was known as Miss Marvel, and I knew Jean Grey was Marvel Girl, and I believe Carol Danvers was Miss Marvel when Rogue stole her powers.
Yeah. And so, you have that thread that goes through all of these characters, the Miss Marvel tag. And, of course, I tell you what, though, there was one thing about the trailer. When I was looking at those power bands that look like they may be quantum bands, and I haven't heard anybody talk about this, and I wonder, are they going to make them similar in construction and have a similar origin to the 10 rings? I wonder.
That's what it reminded me of when you first started talking about it. These powerful bracelets. This is pretty much,
I think there's a good possibility the power bands and the 10 rings might have a similar origin, and that will tie a lot of that together. But speaking of Marvel, I kicked on Marvel Plus this week, and when I turned it on, there was a message that popped up. It says, "Do you want TVMA content?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And then suddenly, before me, we had all of the Netflix Marvel series.
Oh, okay.
So
MA, all right.
exa-
I'm thinking Deadpool. I was like, oh, did they finally get Deadpool on
well, I
over there? All
well
right.
I certainly feel that it's going to happen because obviously they do own Deadpool
Yeah.
now, and they have the ability to do it. I think that this is going to be a test for that, but I feel like they're going to see how this turns out, and if it does well, and the fact that they're making it an option. So if you don't want that type of content, you'll never see it. You have to basically say that you want to see it, put in the password for your account, and then they open it up. And if it does well, yeah, I'm sure we'll see Deadpool if it's not already there. And there's also rumors that they may do a new series of Daredevil or some of the other shows and bring some of that stuff back. And of course, everybody who was on the show, they're like, yeah, we're ready. We can do this. We're good.
Okay.
So they're ready to go. So, that really opens up Disney. But since we're talking about streaming wars,
Oh.
this was huge news, and I didn't know anything about this until I saw it today. Amazon got them another piece of the puzzle. They made a huge purchase, over $8 billion worth of purchase, and bought MGM Studios.
Oh. So, okay. I was thinking you were about to tell me a catalog of things that they would just always have. They own, like, Amazon MGM.
They bought the entire studio. Now, of course, they get the catalog of everything.
Yeah.
Yes, they bought the entire studio. Yeah, now it's Amazon MGM now.
So now you got like 100 sound stages that.
Yeah. And I mean, you've got the Rocky films, you got the James Bond films, you got Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh, F that. I still have nightmares about that movie.
Well, Amazon's the type of people that would make a sequel to that movie. I know. But I didn't really know about this, but the thing about it was the FCC was looking at this thinking maybe this shouldn't happen because this could be a monopoly. This is like a huge mega studio now, and there was a lot of question about whether this sale should even be allowed to happen. Problem is, the FCC let the time run out. They were basically booted out of the process. They weren't allowed to have any say about it anymore.
Well, I mean, you could say the same thing about Disney buying up Marvel and Fox and everything else, and they become this, megalopolis of everything too. So,
oh yeah,
you really can't fight that.
Well, you can try.
I guess you could try.
Yeah. So the FCC, they were looking at it, but they basically time ran out, and at this point, it's gone through. Man, that opens up a lot of stuff. Amazon, of course, they love doing like weird stuff, and they like to take chances with things. Of course, I know you saw the trailer for season 3 of The Boys.
Yep.
Oh man, it can not get any weirder. I'm starting to worry a little bit about fatigue, especially with the gritty superhero, because I just saw there's an independent comic series, and I'm trying to remember what I think it was Unredeemable. And it's about a Superman that finds out that people don't like him, they fear him, and so it makes him go a little crazy, and he starts murdering people.
Okay.
And it's based off a popular comic series, but it's like, well, this is another one, though. It's like, we got The Boys, we had the Suicide Squad.
Yep. We got Boys Diabolical.
Yeah. There's a ton of that type of stuff out, and I know that it's very popular right now, so everybody is going full bore on that, except maybe Marvel. I can't even say that now that they're bringing the grittier Netflix series to Disney Plus, so they're even riding that coattail a little bit. Although this was stuff they'd already created, but I'm wondering when the bottom's going to drop out of this market. I honestly wonder, because when you're doing like the same thing over and over again, there's only so many ways you can deconstruct the superhero mythology. Until people are just like, okay, been there, done that.
Yeah.
I've seen this already. It's like, let's have some fun superhero stuff, which Marvel is more than happy to give us. Of course, they've been talking about Deadpool 3. I mean, even that being a gritty superhero, it's a fun,
yeah.
It's funny.
It's R-rated, but it's fun. It's not
exactly
not heavy brooding the Batman or anything. It's fun. I'll chop my head off and put it right back on. That's
exactly. So I'm just, like I said, just hoping that this will tone down a little bit. We can get maybe a little bit more variety. To be honest, are you going to get grittier than The Boys or Brightburn if you could get grittier than that, I don't know if I'd even want to watch it at that point. There's a point to where you're like, oh, geez, okay, that's a little too much. And we may reach that point with The Boys season 3, because they're promising a lot of stuff that are just like, how does it
exploding whales and
yeah, how does this get worse? How does it possibly get worse? And I'm scared. I'm scared to find out, but I guess we will definitely see that. So,
well, like the Suicide Squad in the comic books, your Task Force X. Well, now there's a new one out called Task Force Z. Have you seen this one?
no, I haven't.
Okay, well, Task Force X, they're called Suicide Squad because you're going on a mission that will probably kill you. These are people that have come back from the dead. So we've got Bane working with Jason Todd, all superheroes that have died and come back, and they die on missions, and then they bring them back to keep dying on these missions. I've only read the one, but I'm going to try to find the rest that are available.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like comic books aren't nearly doing as well as TV and movies these days. Even Marvel's having issues. I had read somewhere that their new Secret Wars series is getting delayed again, and it looks like it's going to be several months before they even get it done. I've been following this. And, I mean, there's not a lot of information, and I can understand why there's not a lot of information about this, but I've been hearing all these rumors that they are still doing reshoots for Doctor Strange. Reshoots aren't a big deal in the movie, and I mean, they're constantly doing them, but we're like a couple of months away from this being in theaters.
Yeah, we've had the final trailer, right?
Yeah.
We should just be touching up now. We should just be putting makeup on now.
Yeah, exactly. Is the movie so problematic that you have to shoot more stuff to fix it?
Okay.
Are there holes that big that you can't patch it up with editing? You have to shoot whole scenes. That's worrisome.
Yeah.
The problem at this point is that the expectations are so high. Again, we were running into this issue with Spider-Man No Way Home. All the rumors that were going on. And there comes a point where somebody's going to come up with a great idea, and they're going to be disappointed they don't get it. And it's like, you can't do everything.
And it already looks like there's just going to be so much.
Yeah.
People were kind of anticipating that with Spider-Man No Way Home. And so now that's putting an expectation on what we're trying to get from Doctor Strange because, we got Charles Xavier, and this is going to be our big fangasm that we've been waiting on. So there's going to be an expectation there, and someone's always going to be disappointed.
Oh, yeah. Well, everybody's headcanon is sacrosanct. So
I'm right. Everyone else is wrong.
Yeah. And of course, with Doctor Strange being a part of Spider-Man No Way Home, that brings the expectations again very high. And the fact that you did the first trailer for Doctor Strange as an after-credit scene in Spider-Man, there's a lot that you're putting on the shoulders of this one movie. And, you had a director's switch, but it was a dream casting for a director. If you had to replace it with somebody, that's the guy to do. I guess we'll see what happens. But, yeah, I have to admit, I'm a little bit worried. But I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out.
We're going to end the show as we normally do with The Walking Dead. I'm not going to play the music, though.
Okay. Because
I do want to talk to you about the show a little bit. I have seen the episode that's going to be airing this Sunday, and I'm going to say some stuff briefly about it, and to anybody who's playing the Geek Watch podcast drinking game, be ready to take a shot. We don't want to go into spoilers, but one thing about the episode that I thought was strange was, of course, we've been talking about how, the Commonwealth, and there's obviously something under the surface. We were going to see this development of the facade slowly peel away. This episode, they said, screw it, we're just going to rip the Band-Aid off. And just, it was jarring how quickly things turned in this one episode.
Just the Commonwealth just fell apart.
As far as this idea that they have like a moral center, we'll say. Again, not going into spoilers, but there was a character that I thought was going to be a lot more subtle, and you start to see the facade peel off, and it was just like in an instant. You got a hint of it in the last episode, like the opening of the last episode, but then they just go full-blown villain, like, quickly. Now, I understand that we have not a lot of episodes left in this entire series, but it was a bit jarring, I will say.
Okay.
But it's definitely setting some stuff up. But it also has me worried about Isle of the Dead. I would think going into Isle of the Dead, we're going to have this conflict between Maggie and Negan for obvious reasons.
Right.
and that was going to play into the show. But it seems like, looking at these episodes, that they're going to resolve all of that even before they get to the show. So I'm like, what's going to be the driving force of this show?
They're going to be forced to work together?
Or they're not going to have a problem working together. That whatever issues they have between each other are going to be resolved before we get to the spin-off series, which, if they do that, I don't know how I feel about it. One, because it's obviously taking a tool out of your toolbox you're not able to use. That conflict between the two of them would be a great engine to base the show on. The other part of it, too, is that if they are going to resolve it, it's going to be really quick. Maybe too quick. Even today, as I was flipping through social media and I saw somebody posted a TikTok, it was somebody doing a stitch where somebody asked the question, was there a character death in a show that made you almost give up on the show? And the person who stitched it, she said Glenn's death. She said, I couldn't watch the show after that. And that was the truth for a lot of people.
Yep.
To think that the issues between Maggie and Negan could be resolved even in an entire season's worth of television, to me, it just seems so rushed. But I do want to talk about one big thing generally about The Walking Dead. And we talked about it a little bit last week, which was how the show feels a lot smaller, and it feels like a show that's on its way out because of the fact that you're not seeing all the characters like you did before all at once.
Yeah, you're doing sectionals instead of seeing the whole orchestra. Yeah,
and you feel like you're getting smaller budgets just because of the way that it's shot. And on top of that, you also have some of your most popular characters are gone out of the show. We don't have Rick anymore. We don't have Michonne anymore. And knowing that there's planning on doing movies, although we still haven't heard anything about those movies, but the fact that we know that the plan is for them to do movies, we're not going to get any kind of resolution for those characters in this show. We're going to have to wait for however long the movies take, if they come out at all, before we get that. So we don't have that to look forward to, where we would have that maybe as a driving force. Are they going to find out Rick is still alive? Are we going to see the people that Michonne are with? Are they going to be reunited with the people who think Rick is dead? Are they going to get that reveal at the end? And we know all that's pretty much off the table because that's not what their plan is at all. And, of course, we also know that we have all these spin-off shows that have been announced. And so that gives all of these characters plot armor. We're not worried about any of them dying because, well, they got shows planned.
Yeah.
And so what's left?
I don't know. Maybe we get prequels.
Well, I'm going to bring this up. What was the last episode of Walking Dead that you saw?
Oh, I'm not even sure now.
Yeah, it's been a while.
The one that sticks out mostly to me is the one where Maggie is talking about coming upon the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that's sticking out in my mind. So that may have been the last one I saw.
And you haven't really been able to follow it since then. And the season before where they did the vignettes, you didn't see any of those.
No, I didn't.
You haven't seen any of
those.
those.
No, I didn't get to see Lucille or anything.
Yeah, you haven't seen any of those at all. Now, and I'm going to bring this up, you and your Geek rose-colored glasses, as you're fond of putting them.
Yes.
Did you ever think there would come a time where episodes of The Walking Dead would just whiz by and you wouldn't watch them? Or you weren't that eager to get caught up?
I guess there came a point where I didn't go back and just think that. I'm trying to remember the last time, I was really excited about it. And it may have been, after the Magic Helicopter. Watched the next season, but it was okay. After the time jump, that was neat. But yeah, ever since then, it's okay. I'm going to watch them eventually, but that's the thing. It's like, I'll get to it.
Yeah,
I'll get to it sometime.
Yeah, it's not. It's not like it was at the beginning. For me, I wasn't watching it right at the beginning. I had to do some binging of a couple of seasons to get caught up. But discovering that show and then getting caught up with what was showing on AMC and then following that, and I would remember staying up Sunday to watch the episode, and I had friends at work who watched it, and we'd sit around the water cooler and talk about the episodes. What struck me today is I woke up this morning and realized I hadn't watched the episode yet. So I got up this morning early and watched it because I knew we needed to talk about it, or at least refer to it on the podcast. And this was the first time really that I watched this show out of a duty because I knew we were talking about it. And that has never really happened to me in this show before. I had never reached a point where I'm like,
oh, I have to watch this.
I have to watch it.
You're experiencing what soap opera fans have experienced for 100 years now. Everyone can talk about Luke and Laura's marriage, and Luke and Laura's wedding. We can talk about that, and then, then they won't watch it for like 5 years, and then they'll come right back on it, and we find out about their kids and things like that. So things that are long and have these big, long, grand stories, it's okay to go in and out of and like it for a while and not like it for a while. And soap opera fans have been doing it. Mm-hmm. We know what that's like.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what you're experiencing that.
Yeah. I think the difference in this situation is we are coming to an end.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to admit, there's nothing else Walking Dead that's really drawn my attention. I tried to watch a little bit of Fear of the Walking Dead. I couldn't get into it. I haven't watched Worlds Beyond.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you ever read the comic books?
Oh, yes.
Okay, all right.
Oh, yes. I was reading the comic books long before the show was ever out.
Okay, so were you worried when you heard that it was getting made? Like, oh, can they do this right? Or were you excited? Like, yeah.
Well, I was a little bit excited, but, when I saw Frank Darabont was heading it, I was like, okay, this could be good. I remember the pain of reading those comic books every month or hoping that I could, but with it being an independent comic, they didn't always come out on time.
There was no standard.
Yeah, they would. Sometimes it would be like, well, there's supposed to be a new comic this month, and it didn't come out. It's like, oh, it got delayed. And sometimes it would get delayed 2 or 3 months. It would just happen.
Oh, okay.
That was just the price you paid for being a fan of the comic. You knew it wasn't coming out. I keep making these references to Game of Thrones, but when you have something that is so based on the source material,
right?
Where with Game of Thrones, where they basically ran out of books and had to come up with their own stuff. And, of course, the comic books, they had that really messed up ending for the series. Not only the fact that they killed off Rick and he was a beloved character, but also that when the issue came out, and they were like, oh, by the way, this is a double issue and it's the last one. And nobody knew. It's like final issue. And you're like, what do you mean final issue? What did we, and they just cut it off so abruptly. We're now getting to the point where the comics ended, and that's where they're going to end the show. I am going to make a prediction.
Okay.
And if you don't like the prediction, let me point out that my record for predictions on this podcast are absolute 0.
Oh, okay.
I have failed every time I have tried to make a prediction. Maybe there was one that I got right, but I've been trying to think back, and I think I have blown everyone. I think the only prediction on this show that's ever panned out was when you predicted the helicopter, when they carry off Rick.
The magic helicopter.
The magic helicopter. It's the only prediction you've ever made, and it was dead on. I've made predictions about The Walking Dead, other things, none of them panned out. So if you don't like this one, it's probably not going to happen.
Okay.
But this is my prediction. I have seen posters and news on this Isle of the Dead. We've seen some stuff for the movies, although that's kind of died off. What we do not have is even a name for what we've been calling the Carol and Daryl show.
Okay.
There's not been any kind of a poster to come out. There's not been any updates on this show for months and months. In the comic books, we had that moment where this beloved character, Rick Grimes, who we had been following from day one of the comics, and we have his death in the Commonwealth, which basically ended the series. My prediction is that we have been swerved, and that the series Walking Dead is going to end with the death of Daryl Dixon.
Ooh, and the riots happen.
Well, the show...
They've been saying it for years.
But the show will be over by then. And like I said, if I get this right, it'll be the first time ever in the whole history of this damn show that I got something right. Because that's the only thing I could think of that would have the impact of what the comic did.
Okay.
And the fact is, they're putting Daryl in the line of fire. I mean, they've already strapped a uniform on him, and we know that he and Maggie are going to come to loggerheads. Now that we have seen that the Commonwealth is rotten to the core, in fact, I think that's the name of the next episode, Rotten or Rotten to the Core, I think that's the actual name. And we know that Daryl's going to be not playing for the right team, apparently. Are we going to have this horrible moment so bad that where maybe even Maggie has to kill him? Maggie kills him, and that's why she runs off to Manhattan, because she can't stay. And maybe Negan goes off with her because he understands why she had to do it, even though it made her very unpopular. Again, I have nothing to base any of this stuff on, but it's a possibility, I suppose. that being said, we have technically counting this Sunday, we have 4 episodes left. I've seen the first of those 4. There's 3 more left. And I'm wondering, especially with the fact that you're as far behind on it and me ambivalent about the show, if maybe we'd shelve the play-by-play week by week for The Walking Dead and just maybe hold off until the end of
the trimesters.
Yeah, well, we'll say maybe we get these 4 episodes in, and see the cliffhanger, and maybe we just talk about the second trimester generally. I would rather just kind of, just wait
till you want to. Yeah.
Until we get it to a place where, we can talk about some things specifically. Right now, I don't see the use of basically coming in and just saying a couple general things, but not going into spoilers, obviously. So it's like we're not really saying an awful lot, and I feel like if we wait until at least the second part of the season is over, and we can dip into spoilers, and then I think also that'll give us a better grasp of the show, and we can talk more knowledgeably about what it's developing in the second semester and how well that it did, and we can maybe critique it a little bit better. And we got a bunch of other stuff that's going to be coming up. We got Moon Knight here soon, and we're going to have Morbius, and we'll be able to talk about that as well. So, by mid-April, Walking Dead will be finished for the second part of the season, and I feel like from there we can talk about it maybe a little bit better. So I think that would be the route to go.
We shall see.
Yeah. And with that said, we come to the end of episode 143. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time for the latest in geek news and views with the Geek Watch podcast. For Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.